What's happening, everybody? It's Sean with Reactions to the Classics, and today we got a reaction to Love and Rockets, their album Seventh Dream of Teenage Heaven, brought to us by a friend, long time supporter of the channel, CSN. Appreciate CSN, appreciate all the patrons who make this thing go. If you'd like to support us in any way, check out that Patreon link below or the Patron link on the end screen. We could not make it without the patrons. We're running a free trial right now. Go over there and check it out. CSN's been a patron longer than all but one person, Sean. Not this Sean. I don't speak in third person, I promise. And he has brought so much great stuff over the years that I'd never heard of, like so much. And we're around the same age range, but you know, growing up as a teenager in the 80s, I just had access to popular radio, so I wasn't getting other things. And it's the other things that were really good I've learned in retrospect. But so we've done some Love and Rockets, we've done some Bauhaus, we've done those things. But CSN says, I'm choosing their first album, the original 1985 release, 1 year after the breakup of Bauhaus. I chose Seventh Dream not only because it's the most accessible, but it also happens to be my favorite by Love and Rockets. So if you know anything about Love and Rockets, English rock band formed in 1985 by former Bauhaus members Daniel Ash, vocals, guitars, and sax, and David J. on bass guitar and vocals, and Kevin Haskins on drums and synth. After that group split up in 1983, they formed Ash and Haskins to record and performed in another band, Tones on Tail, between 82 and 84. Got some stuff with them up too. Type any of those three names in the bar above, and you're going to find some stuff. But of course, wait till this is over. Their fusion of underground rock music with elements of pop music provided an early catalyst for alternative rock, which of course is fantastic. Their 1989 single, So Alive, reached number 3 on the Billboard Hot 100 chart now. That's years down the line. They released 7 studio albums before breaking up in 1999 and reformed briefly in 2007 for a few live shows before splitting again in 2009. They reformed in 2023 and announced several tour dates. This is their debut studio album, released on October 11th, 1985 through their label Beggar's Banquet. It's preceded by the non-album single Ball of Confusion and the album's first proper single, If There's a Heaven Above. Now, this is important. The album was remastered in October of 1999 and reissued in the year 2000 with 6 bonus tracks. Both sides of the non-album single Ball of Confusion, 3 remixes of If There's a Heaven Above, and 1 remix of Haunted When the Minutes Drag. So we are going to listen not just to the proper 7 songs, but several of those other ones as well. So hang around for it. If you've never done this before, the music won't be in the video, but it's going to be at the Vimeo link below. I know I got the Vimeo sign up here. That's just to let you know to click on that link down below. Let's get after it. And we'll start out side A with If There's a Heaven Above. You know, I mentioned it was the first proper single. I don't have notes on any of the songs that are on the original 7-track album. I do have notes on some other things after this. Let's get after them with the lyrics up as always. Thanks again, CSN. Mr. Smith getting the call out there. Fantastic song. Builds the soundscape. I love this soundscape so much. You know, and we got Daniel Ash and David J on the vocals together for most of it, or a lot of it, or it sure sounds that way unless they're double tracking one of their voices. Daniel on guitar, David J on the bass is, you know, he gets to shine some, what you're going to do in a 3-piece, more so than oftentimes with the bass work. It's necessary, but it doesn't necessarily get pushed to the forefront. And then, you know, Haskins on the drums is nice, but in this type of music, the drumming kind of takes a back seat most of the time. I may be proven wrong here in a few minutes, who knows, but really good opener. Next up, we have A Private Future. A somewhat similar, but definitely different soundscape than If There's a Heaven Above. Even some dream pop in there at times. I thought the drumming was a little more prominent after I said it's not all that up front in these, but thought it was well done. A lot of, you know, biblical or spiritual allusions in the song as well. I'm not saying they were trying to make a statement with it. I don't really think they were, but it's interesting. This is the kind of music you just kind of get lost in, like in a great way. Like you just vibe to it. Next up, we have a 7.5-minute song. It's not even the longest one on this album. The Dog End of a Day Gone By. Just rolls right off the tongue, right? All right, stub out the dog end means. It's a British expression meaning to extinguish or stub out the butt, the dog end of a cigarette. So I didn't discover that till the song was going on. I saw it in the Genius Notes. I'm assuming that's right. The Genius Notes are not always right, but I'm assuming that's right. Wish I would have found that out before we listened to the song. Would have went clarity to you if you would have known that's what it means. So, you know, Kevin's drumming is absolutely fantastic on this. I could go back and edit out where I said the drumming is not that important on this, but I'm not going to do that because, hey, man, I was wrong with that take. So great drumming. And the synth was also good, too. And he's doing both of those. So a really good song that, you know, Songs can be too long. And if you watch this channel a lot, you know I have that sentiment. But I only feel like they're too long if we just get, if the music's not interesting, we get that 3.5 minute solo in there. If you love that, that's great. But most of the time, that does not work for me. Sometimes it does. Most of the time, it doesn't work. Sometimes I feel like bands are trying to make long songs for one reason or another. Sometimes they just got to extend out the song to get the runtime on the album where it's supposed to be. We don't deal with that now so much in streaming, but in anything older we listen to, there's a length that has to be between this and between that. And that's really up to the record company. I mean, only so much would fit on vinyl or cassette or CD, but it's more the record company tells you we're going to need this much music. And so sometimes artists will go back and lengthen out songs. I tell you that to say, I definitely don't feel like that's the case here. And I don't think that's going to be the case on any of these songs. That's just kind of how these songs are arranged and meant to be. Now we get up to the halfway point of the proper album and the last song on side A. We got The Game. All right, this was a nice showcase for David J's bass work. The song is called The Game, but really it could be called To Win Is to Lose is to Win, because that's a refrain that's repeated a lot. It's got a nice, like, almost gothic soundscape. I don't really care for the song that much, but the more it went on, the more I liked it, which lends credence to having a longer type of song when you're trying to build this soundscape and mood out. It's not bad. It's just I don't like it as well as the first three songs, which there's going to be some songs that aren't going to be as good as the others. And we are going to start off side B with the title track, Seventh Dream of Teenage Heaven. Seventh Dream of Teenage Heaven. I think it harkens back to their roots, and I think it's really good. I think it does what The Game was trying to do. It just does it much better. The soundscape is fantastic, and I don't really know what it's about. I mean, you can try to break down the lyrics, but I think that's also why it kind of harkens back to even Bauhaus days. I mean, I'm not an authority on Bauhaus and those things like CSN is, but or Tones on Tail, but it's really good. Now we got 2 songs left. We're up to the longest song on here. It's over 8 minutes long. Haunted When the Minutes Drag. All right, Haunted When the Minutes Drag. He's haunted by this girl. He cannot get away from her memory. Haunted by your soul, haunted by your hair, haunted by your clothes, haunted by your eyes. Great arrangement. And the bass work by David J is next level. Very good song. Perfect arrangement for the lyrical part of it. The vocals lend to that kind of, he's haunted by this. Maybe a minute and a half too long, but I'm not going to quibble on that. It didn't drag per se, but it probably could have been a minute and a half shorter if I'm going to have to pick something. Now we're going to get to the last song on the proper album. Remember, we're going to go for some stuff on the reissue though as well. And I just cheated to see where, if the title of the song is actually in the lyrics and it's an instrumental. Because I don't know how to say this word, so I was actually going to cheat and listen to how he said it. But Saudade. Let's go with that. All right. I quite enjoyed that song. I think Daniel's guitar work on there especially was pristine. I would have loved to have heard lyrics over this. Just such a different turn from the rest of the album. I thought the previous 3 songs were more, not total goth or anything like that, and not anything on the industrial side that Bauhaus sometimes sounded like from the stuff I've heard. But a little more goth, a little more dark related in the first 3 songs, and this kind of brings you out on this almost high note, right? Just totally different. I would have loved to have heard the lyrics, but we'll take the instrumental. And the previous 7 songs we just finished are the ones that are going to be eligible for favorites and everything because they were the proper album. But now we're going to go to that reissue and pick up a bunch more songs. The Ball of Confusion single that was released before this album, we're going to be on that now. It's the UK mix. It's a longer mix. And it's originally a 1970 hit, of course, from the Temptations, released on the Motown label, written by Norman Whitfield and Barrett Strong, who were just legendary songwriters. It was used to anchor the Temptations' 1970 Greatest Hits 2 LP. Went to 3 in the US pop, 2 on the R&B, 7 on the UK chart. So it's a really well-known song, and we're going to see what these guys did with it. Ball of Confusion. I can't say that I know the original by the Temptations real well. I mean, I've heard it, but obviously they added stuff in here. You got a little Reaganomics throw in there, which if the Temptations knew in 1970 that Reagan was going to do Reaganomics in the early 80s, they were quite prophetic, but it was really good. The bass work on here was fantastic. The song has a bunch of great stuff to say. They didn't alter very many lyrics, which shows you that whether it was 1970 or the mid 80s, it all made sense still because this world, and a lot of it just makes sense right now. I guess basically all of it does, except for the Reaganomics throw. Makes sense now. It tells you about a timeless song written about issues that we have in this world that haven't changed at all. But I thought it was really good, man. Really good. I mean, it sounds like a comb in there. I don't know if it's something else, but Sounds Like a Comb and just Ball of Confusion. That's in my head now. We'll go to another song that was on with Ball of Confusion with the single Inside the Outside. All right, really good instrumentation. Wasn't a huge fan of that song, but I mean, it wasn't meant to be showcased, right? It's on the single with Ball of Confusion. So, it's fine, man. I mean, it's the weakest song I've listened to so far. It's not horrible. Now we're going to get to our first remix. The first song, If There's a Heaven Above, I don't give away stuff, but I really like that song. I won't give away my favorites yet, but I really like that song. So we've got two choices here on mixes. We've got this one, If There's a Heaven Above 12-inch mix, which is 7 minutes long, and the original was 4:57. Or the very last track, the 13th track, is the same thing, If There's a Heaven Above Canada mix, but it's 4:26. And the opening track was 4:57. So I think they're probably just going to cut stuff out. So let's go to the expanded mix, the 12-inch mix. The dance club mix is where you're getting on 12-inch mixes there. It's 7 minutes long. Let's do it. All right. The 12-inch mix, the 7-minute mix of If There's a Heaven Above. I thought this was really good. I think I like the original track, the first track of the album better. But I think they did a good job with this because sometimes, man, on these extended tracks, these 12-inch tracks, it gets tricky, right? The mix gets tricky. And it's supposed to be because it can be repetitive because a lot of it's dance stuff, it's club stuff. And so it's fine. That's kind of what you want. But I thought this was inventive enough that it definitely worked. Now, we just heard all about Mr. Smith on If There's a Heaven Above. Now we're going to have God and Mr. Smith, another track on the Ball of Confusion single. All right, God and Mr. Smith. So I'm in the United States. So in the U.S., I mean, in this time of the days, you had a 45, you had an A side and a B side. But, I'll explain to my U.S. brothers and sisters, like in the U.K. and other parts of the world, it's a whole 4 songs, sometimes 6 songs. I mean, you even get that up into the 90s, obviously, with the B sides of Oasis that became very famous, and Suede and a bunch of others. But so you had to come up with more than one song. So Inside the Outside was okay, which was on the Ball of Confusion single. This is a total filler, God and Mr. Smith, but I don't blame them for that. They weren't trying to go for some sort of marketable song, but I mean, it is what it is. And the last thing we're going to listen to, there's one more track after this, is There's a Heaven Above Canada mix. It's shorter than the original, so we'll skip that. We got Haunted, When the Minutes Drag. We're going to listen to the US mix, and here's why. It's the opposite of the If There's a Heaven Above situation, where the original track on the album was 4 minutes, 57 seconds, and the remix was 7. In this instance, this was the song that was 8 minutes, 1 second. This one's 4:32, the US mix, so they're going to cut a bunch of stuff out. So let's see if that heightens the song or takes away from some of the charm. This was the song I said was a minute and a half too long. So did they cut too much off? Here we go. Okay, Haunted, When the Minutes Drag. The original's 8 minutes, 1 second. This is 4:32. I said the original was about a minute and a half too long. If there was a Sean mix that was 6.5 minutes long, that would probably be perfect for the song, but unfortunately that does not exist. I'm going to say this is slightly better than the original track on the album. They did a really good job compressing it. It actually could have been, though, just a little bit longer. Look at me, man. I'm going to complain one way or another, right? I don't usually do that, but I'm just giving you, it's an interesting to compare two mixes that are drastically different, 3.5 minutes less on this one, but glad I listened to it. Very, very good. So that's going to take us to my favorite tracks. Remember, for our favorite tracks, I am just choosing from the 7 songs that were on the original album, not what was on the 2000 CD reissue, although, this song would have been on there, but that would have been it of those anyway. Well, in Ball of Confusion. So I lied. So 2 of them would have been on there, but they're not on there. So let's focus. Honorable mention, The Dog End of a Day Gone By, and we just listened to the 4.5 minute version, Haunted, When the Minutes Drag. Faves are going to be the title track, 7 Dream of Teenage Heaven. I just thought it tapped into an earlier version of themselves, of their previous days with Bauhaus very well. And then If There's a Heaven Above, I alluded to the fact I liked that. The lead-off track was very, very good, and the remix was good as well. Now I'll get to my overall score. It's only 7 tracks. They're longer tracks, so it gives you a nice length of an album. If you like this sound, you're really going to like this. If you don't like this sound, kudos to you for making it this far through this review. I happen to really like this sound, so for me, it's going to be an 8.0. I think this is a very good album. I don't think there's any real weak tracks on the proper album itself, but I thought it actually didn't fade. It's really, it's really 6 songs because the last one, the instrumental, I liked and almost gave it an honorable mention, but so it's really just 6 songs. And so it stays consistent throughout. So because of that, it's going to be an 8.0. And I'm glad I finally listened to a full album of these guys because as I mentioned before, we got Love and Rockets, we got Tones on Tail, we got Bauhaus, Type It Up Above. We actually have a triple battle back when we used to do triple battles up there. Some things CSN brought us way early on. Let me know what you think of this down below. What's your favorite version of these guys? You know, is it this? Is it Bauhaus? Is it Tones on Tail? What is it? And what's your favorite album of theirs? And all that good stuff. Thanks again to CSN for bringing us this one. And until next time, guys, I will see you.